Awankiglakapi, Tusweca Iyapi, Tusweca Our group is called Iyapi Gluwasakapi na Awankiglakapi. Is protecting and sustaining our Lakota language for future generations. So we got together and decided to start this committee on behalf of Mashke Stephanie Chargenigal, who was very adamant in the Lakota language and culture. But before we get started, we'd like to open with a prayer. Carol, could you play this song?
Le wana se kanka imade tuya Tusweca uchuhampiti el Tiospaye oda henelska na homnik apolo. Kuika el tiwahe ki hena etsa etana oyate thawa shake hena heliuke people's sovereignty. Hoheu leche oyate na I lila hunch Ukipchopina, Iyapi Volney, Minuti Chapelo, Iyapi Gluwasakapi, na Uye, Onki Ukithawapi, Wolcheki, Tokyo Chiapi, na Unkile, Ukithawapi. Saheu, Petulel, Donalel, Yahupiki, Opia, Chichapelo, Okawichasha, Imiklawanda, Atakoni. Olo kile na wakagi wan te ihani unchima koche olo kile na wach uncha ya wakilo un te lo che ya amichi tu zona ya wachit kun ka kapi ki wot la chicha pelo Lakota piki hey o techikelo hey yo hey hoy hela kol wichoch ake te wachia ko ho let you wa oh hey hey ho
Harold for the song and the prayer. My name is Beverly, and I'm a Lakota from the Tusweca. Now, my mashke, Velma Kilsback, is also would like to greet you this morning.
Yani nashi, yani mashte kishishaka. Na ata shitona do kata ya hiki hana waka geni jabi. A hechel shicheshi waki hechel oloma yupia avia. Khadia doba echata haya hiki alawan. Lila yaman. Echi na do kata ya himoniti. Like iodashi lakho ya bikile glus na naoji na hecha. Na he ahon gipratite. Ongeapi. Echi na dako ota ohiapi. Na dukdek Lakota ya bikile Iyapi. Chanke alida hechos voyuksha vashtishti ukahapi. Ogna ho adresam seche na ishon nashi. Ogashn seche lila dako ota ongawachi na voyuksha na wana dona there forget to wana forget to hit them wana many kichapi. To protect them many kichapi. Lechem ni luza hekdana ake praise hekda hana ata many kichapi. Na lechem wachi oyuhapi. Toshke chuko punkha lakho yapi kele ahon ki prana lechem ne kruzna ushiktahe. Lechem woyuheki iuhat ugaha. Dona Yahipi, then I did a huge Awankiglakapi. Now, the organized Dakota, educated Vashita, Ish Num, Hetcher, Yuhaya Globi, then Anishia, Tiata, Navaropi, Echecture, Yahopo Hana, Nisha, Oganao, Daku Vashiste, Avidukshan, Nisha, Ichums, Echanapi, Hetchums, Woyuksha. Iyapi. Eche Tashinas Gavi, Hawokuze, Nakoi Hamble, Eche Yuha Ohinashite, Leambeduki. Ochanke, Ake, Chamashte, Iuha, Nabe, Chuzabe, Na Iuha Teonikilabe, or Misha, Yudakeasi.
Because there are a lot of us on the panel who are going to speak about different topics. We'll get started. So first, Richard and Phil.
Yes. That way.
Dakota Iyapi Tiwahe Mahe Tiwahe na Samokata Tiospaye na Uspaye na Oyate. So isam le Uhihuni some kiwashi to na ota Lakota Awankiglakapi. Ki takuma toka ki he tiata ogana 20 Lakotish. Okaida ki Lakota Tusweca. Oichimashi. Ushila nung Lakota Isafi. Ona lehan Lakota. Tusweca opi. Na Lakota pide mo chi Lakota. Ekta khaita ogana 20 Lakotish na utesh. There are Washington treaties Togashi la which we map Fort Laramie out Shunkawa Kama Pala Wo Shimogata Wola Kotomogata. Illusion Hata Hina Togashi la which we are picking. Don't kill Gashi Heche Owa. Leha Union ki he, wo Geki he, Hechina, Wash Awankiglakapi. Hecha he Villa Washichuku. Owawa Kilana Washichuku. Hani which on Hena Wakanda, Kitakuni, Tusweca. Hani Dorke which on Kilana, Natutelo Tipena. Peche sloya. Takuni chankuma ugna ukaho. Chanku kile heche le tropata ke le Tusweca hea. Tusweca shakumiya. 7 generations. The future generations. Le Lakota piki heche huniki. Why ukiuksha. Ukashina which will be the honey, why not use it? Okaka can use it. That's on them, Uyaka. Let's see Uyaka. Now, Makoshi will let Heki that Chesapa Amune. And that's Naku Kha. Taku Wakha. Ota. Bela Hun. Naishi Ginagina. You have Washington treaties out. And treaty council there over here. So hina archie. So now better ke tuaka wakaida la kota Tusweca hina wopile chicha. Nan diencha hina tukata ke ihuni chaya pite. Na tuago smechia hanta inila Tusweca po. Na hoch ichacha kishi. Hoch don Lakota ja na uspelici se najgele hišne ichacha aber ona ilutche ha jokti. Wakanti jokti don Lakota. Na Lakota pikele homo vacianka. Doske Volney genishna chanupa yochrate. Na Lakota pikele na helo benetela. Doine mahela washitu ya mukokishi. Ken ahane tukashi la noji chwe pikele Lakota cha. Techa ha Lakota chuka. Na dela Lakota pikele umpati tuki. Leta ya kileta. Na dela tela shi. Ke umenite ta yukhiste. Ta hecha na ya na akeri na malaka tenish bayra. Het Wakanda, Naku Wakanda, Doske, Visa, let's say, Omanisi with Sakta, was sick. So it looks something. The inherent sovereignty out there. And honey, which home he was at the lot. What the Gaga people. That's me, you brother.
Pięknie. Honey, English, you should have a sheet of literally out. You say English. Nakota can English, you have it early in the morning. Apple. Have Richard charging you a much apple. Bill collectors na police detail Richard charging you much Musulman in Washington D.C. وعايش ناخذ مطروحيتك منشأ أي كتاب وما شامش كذا تمام وشيء تودا كنت أنا دهشت لما فيل وإيه كه ديرو يبغين يبغوا ده يا لا خديا تلاقي بمونتا لا خديا يمشى وشيء واشي ليلا نخبام تركيا هاي teacher هناك نخبام عايزين سيجانا تكيكيا مكوا ما يبي جالس أنا لا تعمل العشرة هذا خدش كذا بخشلاء هي أوني ماني مغرب لو أختي نشتة جات هي دويني مشتش كيتشي زمفتاد يعني باينا هذا بيني كيو هماني متين خبالوخ ويا لا خدها إلى وكم كيلو Lakota Ogalakapi le Chanu of Chile Aistagia, Lakovich of Aistagia, Iquite. But the Donald Lakota option in a Hechel Shkompi, Amblecha, Yuangachi, which Hapachukapi. Or as Lakota option hunted up Utihachi. Utihachi in a Hechel, which has not for a while. وخابي هم اللي يهام وشيء شغلات وعاش لخوتي وكان كتاج مجيني وآخرشني وكان خلا خابي هم لكان لخوتي نيجي كان بين الصلاة شان وتيان شيء لوي فلهون يا بي مبلغ كتام وشيء وعاش وسبيتشي ons beetje cheetje van we gaan de ook toekasje de ook gaan en extra. Zo otiens. Zo dat komt ja die daar niet de little tegen kunnen wat kan die. Veel heer en dan zijn ook bij jou gehad hier juist ja. Ze ziet die toekasje dat niet sturen. Zijn ook wat die kan. Maar en dan die als er een pin daar kun je ook hier. وجري مها قوية تنشنا تاكو يوكي وعاش لنا يوها Europeans مكيغلا تنكي واشيتشا مكيشانا ليلا شجاع مكان يا تقاتك يا يومبلاتك تاكوجي مشاك يا اعلا خدش نويتشاك نتيجيك على نام سبيتشاك يا مطنش 28 пожалуйста. Також я вчав Господська. Вона атива грішна, онкерне хпайнішна, лонча, спича, вона олоння, кіксуя поє, а гія чашна оба гія. Мікана вона вчашна, укшіла тхка. Лакходя лон, тамоде олонга, кіксуя. Оломон кичава, тиван битва. Вахившина не такой же. Оломон кичава по ексия по я медицине я такой же чала хижит добр. Эчик челена таку киваштеште миха пила Lakota пигана. Han till Lakota pila oyukpi. Lakota unga kaptana Duktesh na uichake. Na dukte Lakota, Lakota domini Arizona hecha Shinaga de la Iyapi Gluwasakapi hecha na Awankiglakapi city with Minneapolis. As Lakota michayu midamata, dua Lakota ke otchaim. Oya de michayu da, dua Lakota hantas otchaim. Die gaat gewild gaat Awankiglakapi. Hantas na Lakota. Da itesh na Awankiglakapi na pechach. You know, they take lives too serious when they don't smile, they don't laugh, and they're going to die from stress. The Lakota ke hunkie hechet, Lakota hunkie ke, you pick your new con. Well, Lakota vole talaman, I took up na. Lakota vile oampi na ha, yawapi na ha, oampi na ha, Awankiglakapi. Du weet je, dan je took up echt je heen. Ja, shit, ja, het na. Oei, begrijp je. Toen we naar het shit. LLC, ja. Je toch in het schoen, heel nou was dit. Ja, toch was niet. Toen was shit, ja, let je dat shit, ja, en dan he, oei, chapje, wat. Toen niet die Awankiglakapi, ja. Verkiet dan nou shit en die lang hand, dan heeft je het keer na Nakota mi chante plantaš, Nakota bile duhašne, unisto na ojavate. Praktičnija po čanteki ni Lakota hantaš, na duhašne unispekte. Na umečitke, ki tamo šiče neži hanta, umečitke ilalekte. Če Lakota bile hantja Awankiglakapi na Awankiglakapi. Mi eđušći Lakota makile lila imata. To Lakota właśnie często jumok šiče, znači tema šiče. To ašna gal vajtkom i program el Washington. Ena juha, I'm depressed out there. Lila šičan. Već je loš čamu kan. Vašiću japi. Vašiću japi lem lote tam Awankiglakapi, le tam la. Lakota Awankiglakapi le chante tam Awankiglakapi. It had meanings. On Lakota kteří nisan vytkutku kan gaja bylo. Akib zana aukšuša eto bo. Tona hešet. Ayavlazapi. Moses kaki trokahuju pina Lakhovičov ančetka. Dvi netani vičažu valašni. Dan wabla trenka, čava čipča vaja trenkeli. Ena vota išičola čamu. Lakota, minak malakota ča. Oaglake. Hečamu kdanata Lakoti vankte lobetre. Dvi vašiči vanktišti. Lakoti če oaglake. Lakota bile otešiti na tako, jutnaš erpahapi, na Lakota, dva Lakota u erpahaniši, na Lakotu ničeka, hantaš, hečića se la otrenite. Lakota bile hantja, it has deep meaning. Washichu does it, it's a real cold-hearted language. Vertroš, weet dat niet om te schrijven dan dat. Ja, no. What the hell for? How you gonna pay me back? Lakota žinu vanantaš, tuksha tukishke. He onochmašne. Ajaš vašiću otkala, no. Na hečiće, ajavle zamantaš. Lakota nečetke, Lakota kumata, tam kiva tam kumute. Lakota kumkele otakuje. The most honorable thing that you can say to your relative is by saying their honorable name, Lengkeek, Lala, Nchi, auntie, and uncle. Those are the most honorable things that they want to hang on to. Yukpi. Toshkawa heche, unkuna kuk, Moses kai washin. Lengkeek. Uncle was the dofremente tragedie. Tusweca. O hece tu hena Lakota ukuka khinapshin. Da Lakota kirtene o unki han guspipshin. Akakala, the may I call them contemporary Indians. They think that is right, so they do it. At least trying to do it right. Well, we're all getting to be contemporary Indians, even in the powwows. Contemporary singing, no words, just vocables, the tune. Lakota had Lolo, Lakota, Oloma, Ia, Chancellor, Olachwashtina, Oachiwashti, or Aslina, Ota, and that's a Williamson. That's just an Indian singing album. They turned it up. Après, Charlotte Nakota, H. Lawala, when there's some people that say that, they are him, they that's what he meant. And the next one, and the Naka thing, don't walk Kuna, Niuchis, Nisha Moicha Kuka, follow that protocol. If you don't understand, follow that protocol. Without reality, we'll be the chicha below.
Richard and Phil. So back in July 21st, we had our first meeting. And at that meeting, we came up with different topics that were really of great concern to the Lakota community. So that is what we are talking about today. And Phil and Richard did a fine example on language. So next is Velma, who will be touching on the culture.
Beverly July 21st, many bishop Chaheha, he Ofaka, Lila Bishota Adi. Chaheha, Dona, topics Iyapi, that Yapi. Culture Gilewaji, Ash, Waki Gile, the birthing app. Wakayajaki, which I have chan, Hokshicha Pia app. Shankar Dona have Wapa. The August 10 48 down Gibi. Baby welcoming up. Hokshi, Chankiap Chahecha Gibi. Na Hecha, Dona Makaja, Richard Hagibi. Na Richijala, Wiakilana, Chea Gluwasakapi. Hoch na Hafshi, Hokshu Hafshi. Na Hoch Ahani, Wakaja, Richard Habi. Cheapi, Yuka Oyukshijan. Waji Leah. I don't know what future my baby has in this chaotic world I don't know if my baby's going to make it in this ugly, chaotic world. Amaita na he, Onchi, what do you think? Shadechos e Oaxaca, Boichakake. Ni Lakota chake, Dakota, Nikoshi, Nasam Nikoshi, Lena, Ewoklaka, Nahishos e, Ani Upisecha. Maybe your great grandma and your grandma taught you. Remember their words. Vichoye ki lana wakancha. Wani jakapi apre. Lechalash lana woklakapi. Shicheshi Richard lana. Shicheshi Phil lana woklakapi. And Lakoyapi ki le wakancha ke. Dua Lakota wani jake hatanash. Ni chante ekta yachuk dena. Ehane uchiva kesa. Pagoja nasula ekta lena ijue enash umakake. Ishe lehan o oyake hechos o oyapshi. Chake the Vichinja Lama Eki Hechitu is I'm afraid my baby's not gonna make it in this world yet. Hechitu. Ash Wahukukia Inicha Hehantanash Nitakoja La Nichichaki Dena Woichaki the Hoshishaki Alkile Wakamapi. Na Vichachaje, Vichakopi, Wakaishakilena. Watching here, na Wiakai, Okai Vichapi. Chake, Dako Oda, Mohabalesakshina, Iyapi. I didn't know this happened. So actually, literally, Orchukilena Iyapi. I have the good Wasna away hamani gakapi he. Little shield tiwahe episho kiti. Jai na boy chuki echuki. Now Vichicha Lahilena Vichoha Iyapi. They have a responsibility as a mother to ensure that their children will grow up and to ensure that these children, their babies are going to grow up into an environment that is feasible for them. Itushika toshke o ayeki lana mashlecha echobikte. Vichichla lana. Na hoch washi yopta hilaya, hedi that yopshina. Is this the reason why some of us girls can't handle our babies yet? Is this why we can't have anything to do with our children, so we leave our children and to expect somebody else to raise them yet? And that is true. Hoch Vichichla ge nahashi chechapi. Lena mohuke o vichachap shihantanash. Vospeki lena Iyapi Krishna. If you're not brought up, somebody talking to you and telling you the do's and don'ts about being a mother, you're not going to be able to do what we as Lakota women is right. You have to love your children no matter what. because we are the mothers. We are the backbone of our nation. We are strong. We're the ones that stay up all night with our children when they're sick. Somebody taught us that. Our mothers taught us that. Yeah, when you have children, you have to love your children. Dueni Islam watching your shnia, Nishnala, what kind of regular Navichalo Hachake, Doke O Yahana Soyakdea. Because you are the mother, you're the only one that knows how to handle your children. Don't expect somebody else to raise your children. People and other places are raising, our grandmothers, great-grandmas are raising their grandchildren. Some of us sitting here are perfect examples. We are raising children. Today, none of my grandchildren is with me, and I'm really, really sorry. I always want to keep my grandchildren. Ash. Enough. You've done enough raising us. Now it's our turn. You're there as a guide there. I thought, so. Nagu, Chik Alapohe, Dakota Gana Chik Alapohe, Dakugo Opa Punchana Iyapi. No, it's our turn. You don't have to do that. It's okay, Mom. Cha, what do I say? That we travel. Now, home the hand, what kind of jacket? Each we check happy. Took that the shahe on Boglushi Jabba. Where did we go wrong? We need to give back that responsibility to our daughters, our granddaughters, our great-granddaughters. We need to do that. And that's a part of our culture. They also talked about the Chekba. Chekba Kilena Gluwasakapi. Hoch Nahafji Chekba Kilena Gluwasakapi. Tibi Chekchel Utkikyapi. Kea, when you piak at Gazap Chanke, we change a Hantan Nashanaya Chekbahana Ukiglakapi. Na Hukshiva be Hantan Nash Lizard Maegla Ukiglakapi. Na Hepresa. Gahan, I have older children. We change a Wana Takapi. Wachik da hip church na taku olep khaishin ata taku ku olep. Otoga chima hip shamachikana refrigerator here you hambi. They come to my house and the first place they go is they open the refrigerator. Ata leche Ivanish ata leche I don't know what they're looking for. Shaheb, are you looking for your check box? It's not going to be in there. But those things, you know that wherever they're at, they're going to come back. Because you're looking for their beliba, chikbaki, their okidep. So that's our way of life. You happy. And our hope is that they would grow up to be Vichachala and Manochchala. Manochchala, Ihoni, the Haitians said, Wochik Yashna Ugahati. Especially at a naming ceremony for our children, Hokshichan Gyab Chashna, Haitians say, Wochik Yabagahet. Itushika Tragoja Gile, Manochchala Ihonikte. Itushika Vichachala Ihonikte. Haitians say, Wochik Yabagahet. I pray that our grandchildren will grow up to be old men, old women. Ve mashke wala dalahahi chake. Mashke toshke ya okai na shishile la khole la bawa. Wana ata menuchale ide obujula emacheshawana. Akim era with Olina. Mashke Cecilia here. Ata Pashichi ata Cecilia. Wana menuchale iwa nishto tenet. Elehunia Wexi, Bichoya Wexi, but I had a Mishnah in Uaga, I know there's more here. Ishnati Api, and a good head, Hechamo, Ishnati Api, they got ya milk camp, Hecha, Vicho, Hecha by 8. Hecha abeti doba on. Uchija laya, koshna laya ob hecha. Ishnanti, abicha loa chake, hecha owa oye hecha. Na oichake. Abeti doba glana ata bagarepi. Chubigna kabichicha hapi. Na ake abeti noba elwa na ata bakshupi taku sharapi. Hambak shara na piata. Na Wanap ivanana kushahati. Wapetu yamani el ata baba gahapi. Otke yapchake as me ata aksokabake. You have a dehydrator at place. Lehan mar bashka. Eham bashkashni. Dehydrate you have to hit your buna konishata. Na busmi on the machagana. The guba unka hashni, a honey and honey champi. On Chivaki, honey wakapa. Ash the honey champi, the blender my head ovaganakin at na saxa and the shiela wakata. So the honey, my modern unchiha macha. O Iyapi Hecha, Wakina Shiwakish Toshkin. I like the modern technology. Ash Woigulumia, O Yuhak the Hecha. We as Lakota, we need to start getting ready for the winter. If you don't do it now, Tarushka, Hecha, Ata, Blogetu, Ata Wakina, Opta Kake. Kava Bushka Tako Hinashina Hake. Toshkele Takto Kanohae Akit. Ata Chilnich Eva Tajushka Kile Hake. Why have you shne Woigloya Wakahalo Ake? Neishe Ata Oyanteki, Vihishanachta Kahelo Ake. Hetroshnio, the Taku Igloya Yo Ake. Oh, Ake, Aikat Ake. Ata Larry, Tajushki, Shkayalo Ake, Khan, Osni Galon Tajushka, Trakaget Ake, Ata Akichat Ake. Hey, we need to start getting ready. Because we don't know what it's going to be like. When you get there, when Shishik then. Chakuki the Nashrushlutina. Ogana iwoglukte. Hecham say, oh, Woigulumia, we are given up Gahok the Hecha. Chanke ishe Waheha wana epicted. Ishe dona amagina Hana Wopila Chicha bed.
Velma. So next, touching on government is Harold.
Daku ya piampetu le iuha wana se khanka agala yahina wana yahuna ogina woksape oyaki le hantar inagina ke kichi wagala ke sabili chi delo ba ami doak ma doak uchi laki delo Harold left Harry emacha Mitoya de ki Ichia Matozi Anua Ellen Yellow Bear Kyle Wota Kuyepi Hena Takuich Oilo Prairie Chicken Black Bear Fire Fleas Gates Dog Thunderbolt Hena Etama Hero Yukon 1998 Ointrach Makiapi Oliver Eichland Hena Johnson Holy Rock Vincent Brinksplenny Royal Bull Bear Wichachsa Ota Wapcha amaki apina el o aye ki hel ilana apelo chogno ayu o asli khokabia oyate chunka kalema gna kapelo tribal president nupa kibila hel emagna kapelo chunke el I ogla ke isnala kophel ahi making Lakota language the official language of the tribe. Ashocha te takunishni, Volney had some Ograkapshi. So I told executive committee head Lakota Yami, Miena Wilbur between lodges, Sam Laudhall, Michael Grant, and only Ogna Ianwaki, Ukalila, what the headship to Lapishni, and Tusweca. She knew she had Lakota Yami. Hangea Travel Council, Wopka, Oshega. The wish of the edge, the how, as he lay on Uye, Ekta, Yahanki, Uye, traditional government, or Untani, a happy honey, traditional government. Hell, only Chiyanke, Ikcha Oyate Ishnala, hell, Iwokalakashi, Wahutopa, Makoche, Zikala Ocham. Pejuta Wilde, many colors of them. Then I say, you walk up that over honey. Oyate Schnelly over that mission. Would you not, okay, IRA government, or would Hetcha one go on me. So we'll hold that, a little shagia, when Hetcha, the cook shop is a nature, yeah. You ptacha star, Elkigakapina, Igmuthanka. Taku wop fota kopia kapi lecture to hedge to ognen o hedge le akesha lo khawo khaki mazaska nichu ten ogna yalali ten lecture glakapi ashunke hedge to la bishni chaher in oyate khawash ake ki he wakan khan kopi katon silver young bear Dokesh creation story Oglaki na Oglakicha na Rue Patosa Nakota Mugena Etaku Kapi ki Ablesbiche Lila Nachwash deno Chahe Wichoni hel Trokae Na he Ihake ki Wotaku Tiwahe Na Tiospaye Na Ospaye Na Wana Sel Khanka Oh, Hero have the Towash, okay, sovereignty, and Leila Ota Heli Wogalakapi, Elders Council head. Now we talked about Tumnichiki head, Guidon Knife Senior, Bill Horncloud, Zachary Highlight, and Jacob Little Thunder, Vern Tolman, Jim Badman, Eddie Ironclad, Willie Highhawk, Eddie Laysback, Tom Thunderbolt. And we talked about 16 Hena Nuki Chapi, Leila Takuko, Dali Wogalakapi. Nahoop and Mugena Sabimi Chelo, Leila Yupiakel, o Glakapi, o Uye Ekta, na Ake, o Ugile, Unkani, na Unkhecha. Shahel, Oyate, Umni, Tomni Cheruchagapiki, Leila Ihanki, Hahel, o Uyekile government, o Unkani. Tribal government today. Shahel, Iyapi Nahel, Daku Kapi Huo, Sermesh Wagalake, Daku Uspimi Chena, Uspema Kapi, Wagalake. IRA government, Ihani Hetcha Wagalake. Now, IRA government, Gile, Utah Kunimshi. Now, we have to Kawashake, Lila, you tell Egna Kapi. Changea Udonipshi, Natakunipshi, Chalaoyapshi, Cha Uchach Wogalakapi, Cha Epaha Wachunki, Gerald One Feather and a Seaver Yonder, Chalatoan, Gerald Muche, Okujla, Chiwagalago. 1990, Stand Buffalo, traditional government, the head Kichong, Unification Treaty, Ukichakapi Hecha, 1990. Hell, Yuna. Mexico, trade, trade, barter, trade and barter system. Here we show you ahead. Chahe, Wapi Wanji, Gluwasakapi, Tatanka na Wakayapi, Tokyo Prea, Ikiapi, Chahe, Owa, Hechna Nina Jelo, Wapi Kihe. Chahe, Olate, Hawa Shake Hechan. Chahe, I'm better led to my audio, Cham Yuka, Tribal Council, Okashin Kachin, Hechan Yukshan Shni. Exile, Tunnel Vision, Happy. Tribal Constitution, Tribal Bylaws, Tribal Council, Tribal Committees, districts, district government. Well, yeah. Daya Yukshan Pihanda, Oyate, Yuhakini, and at Hawash Hakehim Gelo. Shataku had not homely keki, Tiospaye. Tiospaye, Himahi to Yataku, Yosh Hakeyu, Go, Tiwahe. Na Imahe to Yawian and Yankia Velo Tiwahe. Omni Chena, Awankiglakapi, which charge in the area. Shatohan Yusi Chupi na Okolaki Chetuma. Iyapi Hunter society section. We charge na wia. Cha upasi pinka we charge ta ukora kichi eta kuwo. Na ake wia ta ukora kichi eta kuwo. Jo na la hunwia chetka wasoa shinchi. We charge say charge na yambelo. Bear Creek community, Ihani had traditional community had Ikshala Kotio Chia Lakota Iyapi Gihel Yankelo Chahela Unkhani Iyaglakapi Lela La Yuksha Shichemia Pechovalak Chi He Tunkashi Layapi Ta Aichi Wanka El Echel Egakapelo Yawashichi Yakel. IRA Wheeler Act is only under the umbrella of the federal government. The highest they can go is a Secretary of Interior, Assistant Secretary of Interior. That is an act of Congress. As Awankabya, Itokabya, Uye Ekta, Unthan Ekta, Tiospaye, Nahomikielo. Tiospaye na Taku. Sabaton upasi piuka I oithacha, I chapsi de, wakichuze, wakawichasha, Okawi Chasha, na Erba. Wadoma Checha, 1967, Norse Convocation Chagha Picha. Old time army can said, Mount Stimam, Yunkahe, Umpo we held you, and we Chasha Lila Hothanka, ya Itho was a hielo. One of the Yunka Ben Brief of the Erba, of the Yuelo. Now, do Keshke, Omnichi Yankin, the Ugalaki. I la hothanka ihani epaha wochu ki he wakaino chaheu ampetule Iyapi ki he cha Iyapi Gluwasakapi lo tiwane Gluwasakapi ki he na aketue wachipi epa chupi ki tocha na aketue we want what she young he had hoped. I can't do it. What can young he had hoped. So we look Janda. You have hoped to head some. Nakota Chachma, which I hope in Hawaii. You should go ahead now. Open it. Dogish Lakota in our country, Kichi, Wogalaka. Ihania, which are some Makova and Japi. Ihani Lila Wakan, which you in Rado. Lila Dakota Wakan. Azoma Kilo, na Ishta Ojula, Xavinice, Nakpe, Xavinice, Woycha, Xavinice. As Dawson Nohor Stak Wochu, Young Yahaki, Atakilo. Cha, Watono Glakina, Ihani Ochoka, Tatanka Cheji, Agan Egenuki. Ewagan Kilo, Hoganat Wakan Tanka, Kichiwaga, Waki, Hetero. Tunvashla it Hatunka Yusota Picha, Baku Hill, Egnakop, the watcher, a Shuka, Cheji Hill Egnakapi. Cheji, Wakanda. Chawakantaka, Shiwaka, Kiana, Cheji Egnakapi, Ogana Wakantaka, Daku, Wichoya Woksap, a walk here, Wobbles, Ogana Chaku below. Hetchogala below, Ukea, now. Shampet wana le li la uta I tretcha hena da kota yankia pelo Iyapi na inipi na we want what she yankia pelo as tawoyu cha ojula yapshi cha hena echa ogna oyata by wise research ogna ya me hecha obara pelo avesh shampet le on tretcha kile Oyate Techiatin Gogyuchan Piwana Tukashla Yakesha Locha Wopri 1863 Gila Masas Karota Ilagunabi Cha IRA in Echa Uyuha Anapishkobi Mehecha Balakelo Chie Kawaki Hero Nupa Kile Chukaka Emagunakapi Nake Yoki here Emagunakapi Nake Chizaka Emagunakapelo Chatakwa Treki, Iwi Chake, Oaki Yellow, Hebo Yate, Techiaki, Uchampi Wana, Chekiaki, Colombianta, Liawashete, Chi, we are Kolakiche, Navichasa, Kolakiche, Shagia, Hector Kaki Chong, Yampi, Oheva Stekelo, Chi, Preta, Shakoyena, Hersina, Ilena Jipelo. Kesha lo the hetsina ni no jelo and I church I have patita bianta washete o hogna yokta uki washete Moses gauta a kesha lo khawok ki he ilukcha anda le ihanki ha uchomu ki he aikwa geshi he on wopre khanda 1851 tree Wopre Tanga Itoka Yawashichu, Mariana Wopre, Ukewashite, Iyapi 1860, Akesha, as Hogano Kombianta la Shicha Okyuhan, Ake, everyone won't try to IRA. Dokishke, Tiospaye ktawo. Ish hechitu yala fish nyanda oshete. Tiospaye ktake obi ki oshte oji oglakena. Ihan uchocha oji uchaya Iyapi. Amichik tu jo washichu wala kinte ogna uch tayante ukachni kapishniki sloyok telo. They me out there, my dad told me one time, he said they used to, long time ago, they used to have, when a baby was born, they would have a ceremony where they would find an elder that had good character. Grandpa to a baby male, grandma to a baby female. And they'd hold that ceremony and that. He would pray and wipe his finger and wipe out the baby's mouth to transpose all the good characteristics and the spiritual strength to that baby, so that baby, female or male, will grow up in a strong way of life. But we don't hold ceremonies like that, and I don't think we should. How many grandpas today are worthy of doing something like that, or a grandma are worthy of doing something like that? That's how sacred and pristine our culture used to be. We don't have that anymore. So if they'd done that, maybe they would be better, stronger speakers and better to communicate in order to enable our Tiospaye to get stronger and stay stronger. And like I said in Lakota, I witnessed a lot of miracles. When I say that, I can also give you a name of somebody who saw what I saw. So what I tell you is I can have a witness to verify what I know, what I saw. So in the teachings of the Chanpa, when Dawson was teaching us, the seventh law of the pipe, making of man and woman, rites of passage. When you're made a man, you become a male, you're responsible as a male. To your home, your Tiospaye or Spaye. Same thing with a woman. In the rites of pet, Ishnati. I went to one up in the Black Hills with Rita, Afraid of Hawk, Afraid of Bear, and she's 97 years old. And Joe American was two elders, so we ran that. It's really a nice ceremony, good way to see how they remembered how they ran those rites of passage. 4 young ladies, before they become women, we have that ceremony. It was really nice to see. So we're up there and we're singing and doing it. It was a really good event. But beyond that, Chanupa Ikopa, Gehena Ukayu, Gietaku, Chawat Chala Uliche, Wawimuchi, Collection Oglakapi, Ich Iyapi, Hebu Bo Iye, Agangi Chupina, Ugna Uchoyena, Michapo, Wakankan, Gehena Kichi Oglakapi, Echen Oglakapi. So we look at the governance. If you think about it, what does that mean? You're sovereign. You have that personal sovereignty. You have that sovereignty in your home with your family, your children, your grandchildren. Now you have traditional sovereignty, Tiospaye, my dad's example, my dad's bloodline comes from my great-grandpa, Walking Eagle from Rosebud. His son, Left Terry, was first cousin in Crazy Horses Camp. My dad's mom's side's from Red Cloud. My mom's side's from Red Shirt and Eagle from Standing Rock. So when we say Mitaku Oyasi, we mean that in the concept of not just humans, but the animals, the birds, the fish, the governance of it. It's not in a sense of having material wealth. I mean, Ushika, I'm humble in character because I'm less than one of the gods, Tukashilas, creation, because they were given the perfect genetic code on how to exist. Okay, they gave us thought and philosophy. From that thought, we have greed, we have jealousy, we have hatred, we have animosity. We have things that destroy us, and that's what comes into tribal government today. Cheji, Awankiglakapi, Gluwasakapi. I'm just explaining what I learned by being on the inside of that. And I'm going back to my family, my relatives, my people, to try to give them a better quality of life, a better way of life. So do we want to work on the language? But before we do, we need to work on everything else. We need to work on your sovereignty, your life. You need to work on your Tiospaye, talk all the time. Like these guys mentioned, Lakota, and we need to also talk about what is going to govern us. We're going to allow bad behavior and misconduct to govern us, or are we have a voice. Wakankanka is going to hear us use that voice, communicate and talk. Oh, yeah. So much for my introduction.
Next we have Volney, fast horse. Volney's from Fort Yates, Cannonball, and he'll touch on healing.
Wasn't ready for my presentation, but when Beverly got a hold of me here about 24 hours ago and said, "Why not? We're going to still go." She said, "So I was scrambling to put something together on healing." But then my Dakota, my charge here, he can't na washitu, the charge here, Volney pastors, na Iyapi Gluwasakapi, but there's a little community south of Cannonball called Dakota. That's where I grew up. We grew up with the language. I grew up with my grandmother and grandfather, Beverly and Lillian Swift Horse. My grandfather was grandson of Nakota. Nakota was the daughter of Nakota was one of them that was hung in Mankato, and my grandmother that raised me, her name was Lillian Hawkshield Welch from Nakota. Her grandfather was Wonbo, who was the adopted son of Tatanka Yotake. So I come from a long history of Lakota language. But through our traditions, our culture, we are raised by your grandfather. You're raised by your father, how they were raised. So we were raised Dakota. But in our household, we always had prayer. When I was growing up, we always had prayer. My grandmother, my grandfather, all the time. They prayed with cedar every morning. And house, and they always had breakfast ready to go, but at the same time, you could smell the Dakota, Azi, and Chanupas in the house every morning. And when I would walk into their house, they would be praying, and that was every morning. My grandfather would have his chanupa out, and he would be praying with his chanupa. But at the same time, he would be sitting there braiding his hair, and my grandmother would be sitting in her own chair, braiding her own hair. But he would be singing under his breath. I always wondered, what kind of song was that? What was he singing? Dakota. He's Dakota, so there must have been a song, but we always say we should have listened. We should have paid attention when they spoke the language. But a lot of times when we were young, we kind of wandered off when I don't know if we should say more interesting things, but things that we wanted to experience, I guess, maybe it was, good or bad. But in that time, when I grew up with them, one of the things that they always had for each other was respect. They respected each other, and at the same time they had self-respect for themselves. They never spoke ill of anyone. They never used foul language. They never drank. I think my grandpa smoked at one time. It was Mulder. He did a lot of construction work in the past, so he always carried Mulder with him. But every day they prayed. My grandfather, he would put on a clean shirt every day. Put on a clean shirt, whether he was going to go out working or he was just going to town or something. He put on a clean shirt every day. And my grandmother would put on a clean apron every day to be presentable to each other, even though they lived way out in the country, about 8 miles along the Missouri River. They respected each other. They wanted to look nice for each other. And so those are some of the things that when I was growing up with them is respect. The respect, self-respect, and the healing that it had for each other and for what I learned from. And one of the other the aspects of healing that I grew up with was the Shumakan. All my life we had horses on our ranch. We had a little ranch too. We raised cattle and whatnot, but we always had horses to ride. My grandfather always said, take care of the horses first. Feed the horses first. Even if they have no food available, go get them something to eat before you eat. Before you go inside, you make sure the horses are taken care of. So we always followed that. We always followed that habit, I guess. But to us, I guess, as Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota people, those are our spiritual traditions, our cultures that we have grown up with. One of throughout the years, growing up with the horse, I always had the experience of people praying, before they rode, smudging their horses. However, to take care of the horses first. Spiritual healing between the individual and the horse. And in all my years racing horses, we've got about, I want to say maybe 16 head of horses that we raise. We raise quarter horses over by Solent. That's west of Cannonball, a few miles. And my experience throughout the years growing up with them, like I want to say maybe in the last 20 years or so, since I really started getting involved with the Shumakan, is you start to understand them a little more. Every day you're learning something new about the Shumakan. Spiritually, experienced things with the horses that where it brings out your emotions that sometimes you think, you know, here and there I hear, you know, some of our Wichasha, even our Hoshinas, they say, you're not a man if you cry. But there was many times that when I was growing up with our horses where we had situations where it was pretty emotional sometimes, and that, you know, that to me is a type of spiritual healing that our horses, you know, bring to, you know, to us, not only as the men, but also, you know, women who are involved with horses too. It helps them in different ways. Horses sense that, you know, horses sense to the different lives the women lead as opposed to the way the men are growing up, or their lives, how they lead their lives. One of my experiences that I had was not too long ago. I want to say maybe about 10 years ago. I guess maybe some that's a long time ago, but for me it was almost like the other day. But I got a phone call one day when I was home. It was in the middle of summer sometime, and our chief financial officer for the tribe called me up, and he said, I wonder if you have a minute, you know, one time here we can put a day aside. He said, I need you to come visit me. I said, for what? I mean, you know, I worked for the tribe at the time. I was the assistant director for the Tarot office, and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble. What did I do? I didn't know a chief financial officer calling me at home. So, but anyway, so I said, sure. And he said, the reason why I'm calling is, he said, I want to bring out my fiance and her children. He said, she feels something has to be done for her children. She's tried all avenues. He said, all avenues of counselors, avenues of let's see, the different specialists, I guess. So I called around. He said, on Standing Rock. And he said, your name came up, you know, more times than once. He said, so I thought maybe I'd give you a ring and see what you can do to help me out. So, sure. I said, come on out. Let's schedule a time. We scheduled a time, you know, in the afternoon, about 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks down the road. When he comes out, he brings his fiance and her 2 kids. His fiance is from Colombia, South America, and the children that she had is, she used to be married to a man from Spain, but they moved into the United States and stayed for a while. But anyways, they got divorced and the man moved away. So anyways, so she brought the children. One was a 15-year-old girl, the other was a 10-year-old boy. And he told me when he got there, we stood aside and we were visiting a little bit, and he said this girl, she's having a hard time. The mother is really having a hard time with her. I said, what about the young man? He said, oh, he's living, you know, he's living the life of a 10-year-old, having fun, you know. So, but anyways, I said, okay. So we started visiting a little bit, and I said, well, let's go down and said, let's go see. Visit our stud. His name is JD, and really a gentle stud. We use him for our program there, but anybody could ride him. He's that gentle. But one of the things that I've seen where some people only talk about, some people only explain in the books, I experienced that right there in one of our crowds. Is that when we had the young girl come into the crowd where our stud was, we closer to the horse. I don't know what he sensed, but his ears went back and he moved away. So I thought, what the heck? So I talked with him a little more, and as he told me, behave, these are visitors and whatever. So he settled down. He just stood there. I was petting him. And the little girl comes over, 15 years old, I don't know, maybe 5 feet or something like that. She comes over, she reaches out to touch his neck. The minute she touched his neck, it was almost like a hot poker or something against his neck. He flinched and moved away right away. So I thought, boy, there's a lot of issues going on with this young girl. So again, JD kind of, moved away and whatnot, so I thought, so I was talking with him a little more, so he settled down. And she wanted to ride him. So I thought, okay, I said, I trust JD will be gentle with her. So my wife comes in and she helps the little girl up on the horse. And this is something that so I guess, like I was saying, you always see in the books. When that little girl got on JD, it looked like he felt like he had 1,000 pounds on his back. His back, he went down, and it was almost like he was struggling to keep her on his back. And so again, I started talking with him, and he settled down. But as I was leading him around in the pen, she was holding on. He was nervous, and I never seen him like that before around children. So we walked around in the circle, and here she started petting him. Something must have happened between her feeling that horse under her, or what, I don't know, but she started to pet him. And here, as we were going around in the circle, she turned around and looked at her mother and said, "Mom, look at this. Look what I'm doing, Mom." And so when we got done, we helped her off, and I stepped outside the crowd and went over to my friend, and I said, "Wow," I said, "that's the first time I've seen something like that." I looked over at the mother. She had sunglasses on. She had tears coming down. So I asked my friend, I said, so what's, I said, how come she's crying? What's going on? And he said, that's the first time in the last 5 years that she ever called her mother Mom. So I thought, geez, that's wow, that's the strength of our Shuankan that have on our people. The strength they have on, especially our youth, especially our Wakanja and our Chapujas. And so we finished there, and we put the little guy on, but boy, my JD didn't care. He just plodded along. That little guy was having fun. We went into another pen where we had some yearlings. And the little guy walks into the pen, all these horses come around him, and he's petting them, having fun. So he comes out, he goes and, goes plays somewhere else there. The girl comes into the pen. If you ever see on these television shows, like these nature shows, where they show sharks going into a school of fish, where the school of fish just go apart like this. When she walked into that pen with the yearlings, they all moved away like this. They were all around her with their ears up, looking at her like, they weren't sure. They felt something. So I went in there and I was talking with the yearlings. There's a couple of them that are really friendly yearlings. They'll just run up to you, but they stayed back. So I was talking with them a little bit, and they started coming up closer and closer. I reached my hand up, and they were even wary of me because was in that circle. So I reached out, and the horse smelled my hand, and the young ones smelled my hand, and they started moving up, but they moved up to me, and it was like, it's like the little children that are standing behind their mother, they're looking around, looking at this young girl. But the more I talk to them, the more they relax. So the little girl comes over and she starts to pet them. And the horses start relaxing. She starts relaxing. She starts talking with her mother, saying, Mom, look at this, Mom, that. And she couldn't get over that. She had tears, she was crying. But those are some of the experiences that I grew up with. There's a lot of experiences that I grew up with where I live way out in the country. I live like maybe 8 miles off the main road at 1806, just west of, or northwest of the Prairie Knights Casino. Got a little ranch out there, and we have about 16 head of horses, but every day I'm with my horses. Every day I feed them. I talk with them. I try to talk. I try to speak the language with them. Every time when it's time to feed, I take the grain out and I said, ho, wana, yo, go, wana. Boy, they hear that. They turn around and they run to the feeders. They don't run to me. They know where they're gonna eat. So I take them and I feed them. But a lot of the experiences that I grew up on my own little ranch and with my grandparents is the experience with the Shuankan, how powerful they are spiritually. And in the last 20 years here, they're really getting involved. I want to say really involved with our language. Our language, again, is a prayer. To me, our language is a prayer. When it's spoken, it's so humbling, it's so comforting, when it's spoken by fluent speakers or those that are learning the language. So you keep learning the language, you keep learning about our culture. Our language is our culture, our language is our tradition, our language is our spirituality. So, Vidama.
Volney, I know we're gonna go over, but from what I understand, Mike said it was okay. We have, on history, touching on history, we have Steve and Harold Condon to speak on this topic.
Uchi, Alana, Volney, it's a Volney. They were actually the cold war, Lakota. So then Steve scares up, see, you won't lock up. 1973, Black Hill State, COVID chance Washington. Iyapi tried to say yeah, and Donna, who needs your help, who chanted and who forward. So he blew up to HOA in 1973. Lucas gets chunkum okay, Lakota there. We have to keep him stable. So, Ibluski. Lakota. Mine is Cecilia. So it's 73, 89, hockey, Omnichoma, and Lakota go today, Iyapi, and Uchechi Shakoi, chapter. Only even Iyapi is Lakota. Especially Iyapi same chance. We are mercy for manager. Yoko China, Yotaka, yes. It's a Yotaka. Who? Space teacher. And only years after, Nakota, we was each we tell him this now. Nakota, we won't lock up. Some we chose the higher. So 1989, hockey, league, we chose the high. Now we try to reload the Nazi, Lakota. So, that took to be there, the children go back. So, the order, all like the Turkish kitchen from the Kaiser, Lakota, Fukaria. At SDIA, Chris Bordeaux, chairman, state to tell people, don't get scared. State standards have been out certified, put the speakers and not certified sharing most of the time. That's honey. Most people got to leave. And then you now went to certification as a Jew. And the hand with all that selection, a co-host, which are taken out. So, Stephanie charged me. It was she's my sister-in-law. After Wayana. Igluwasakapi, doctor, Stephanie charged me. Open our group, the car, in the car, Dakota, because, okay, scared. It's China now. Or kind of, mostly Chinese. And down, hey, Juna, you have yet. Hechis. Otro, for time, like we went cell phones, they took out. Took each other, Stephanie's speech. Het wil je maar uit de gaten is. Dat cuckoo was. Rest me. Segur, agora ia pensar aqueles. Again, you see him, I said, Stephanie, no sure. That way. You see him, I know. It's done morning, but 4 times tomorrow. So, thank you, Jackie. That's so deep. You can't, I told them, say, that's you walk like it. I walk like a, busy hooking up with y'all. So, actually, all I did is not to take the keeps, and I feel we try to tell you, to take the whole money, so. You can't, ako četi šakone jače, speeches. You can state standards jak always, it's a Stephanie Gichok. So hechi ina, ako state standards Lakota Gluwasakapi, England. Yeah, we only kept select committee man. And they all shocked. So eu não tinha. Quando eu fui que lá, conference uma coisa, Lakota que lá, e Volney, que chaves. Então ela deu um sítio, deixa eu contar. Sim. Tem no Krishna a Iyapi Gluwasakapi, some you tiny to see, so then, each of them, you're going to be part of the panel, I see you. Talk what you are. That's like you are, I guess, so they talk you are, they had boarding schools. Volney, Yorkshire, Nakota, to the Nakota discussion. He's up there, and he's for hunters. Velma, dungeon, out Chajata. That's any person. After the old way class. That's it, Mama kind of doctor. Black Rockers. There are exits everyone had. Black cars so Tony could be have a and that's it, arcade hours, we got a lot of cheating. That's it, am I gonna come with us? I bet you all here, yeah. I need to quote cash. Shape could give a lot. We have to hit a coal like a use can. We spent that I could do still can. As a coal like that, 20 passes. Again, you know, St. Joseph Mini School. This is yeah. That's a cool, like a boat. Tom Hardy. This, that's a lot. And for when I'm a cold worker in a used to high school. As so que toquei uma coisa, and then after your mom So Lakota So, was in I was in Local State Chunkum, Lakota, where I came mostly. They were not I'll talk a little about English. When I first started school, my parents took me, dropped me off. People that took care of us really nice. Took us in. And one of the rules is that you couldn't talk Lakota. If you do, you get punished. I caught many times. They did different types of punishments on me. But the one that really hurt me the most is being put in that dungeon. As you can see, it still bothers me to talk about it. I experienced it when we have conferences like this. What we should be doing is coming together and how it would be effectively teaching our children and our students at the schools. That should be the focus. But in '89, the last time we met on this, and some might be here that attended those meetings, they compiled everything we talked about through the years. And so that people that were there, who should we give this to so they could do something with it? Here's St. Iglescott. College, university was the one who was going to give it to, so we give all the documents to them. That's where Albert Whitehead's book began, from all those notes to all those years. You know, Tusweca Shakoin basis. So they move her, she moved her. Tokish Garuak Dakota. You come, yeah. Or she took America. Well, there's a pile of papers in that one place, so I looked through them. I said, that's you, they walk the huh? So then, little order Soyashi. As little block. She had a walk. She walked. So, I Googled got in each other. That's just she has it. This is better. Oh, this is better. This is. And Lakota, Awankiglakapi. Umahina, Awankiglakapi. There's only to hitch it. So, only let not know, Lakota, Nunu, Kayaka, or losing our language. As what he is a Lila Orta, not Lakota. So we don't exist. Hey, what that says here. Go up and attend to our times. Dakota has TV now, he has this and this and this. But he have, that's not for us. See, TV, but he have, I get. He wrote not to Dakota. That was all I had. We talked with that. Like our chance to only joke and talk about Nakota. But like she was when I was at, so after the church, he is an uncle of mine died. All the men came out. I went in there, said the prayers. The men came out. They're teasing each other to watch themselves. They might be next. And they're laughing. He always has humor in those type of things. It makes it easier. But I seen all of this going on. Now she's like whole like it. Out there working a good. Now it's on. Like whole like the walking. As we actually had a Babylon to Babylonians down in church. As the market Sasna, so walk the hunters or keys it was. Don't do that anymore. See? Each other must be. If I ask the wrong person a question about what's going on, I guess a mark up. Chance to call me in, and mine. But I just want to put that part in there as far as history. and then leave from this place one mind of our Lakota language. Now, porque la Tusweca Vishayu Sudabhema, Tokea Blabber. One day to extend as a certified Lakota teacher. As the degree blew out, we had business administration to check and watch. So, I had to take some college courses to fit that. So head on. And that's another focus we need to have. Well, that doctrine going on. What kind of Dakota? And then most we check coming out. And well about this. Certification, it's easy. In the history, we all know this is our language. There's no beer, no talk. So that's the headship. In our history, we all know that this is our language. That we need to really hold it sacred. Uphold it from your heart. Our certification had the headship. We have to change how we get certified. Literally, it's too easy. So then, Steve, what up? After organizing, she said, that's good on, man. Steve's the head person at Complete
last minute, Volney, Nakota, now they walk Harold, you know, the head, language, Nakota, walk Harold, okay, St. Joe's in school, Hedgich, and Uncle Shabdo, Dakota, Hetcha, Wayawa, Nakota. East Dakota. That was yes. Number 8. Hetcha, Adena, Inamitaki, Wagla, Hetcha, Wakish, Umaka Keps. The Hetcha, Wayhata, the Wagos a Hessel, Hetcha. My partner, my Kasaka, my Hetcha, Hetcha, Trakwa Hetcha, I'm taking one of my pops. She was she was like the Hetcha. Oh, she had Maka Kayapshine. That's just so what? Waka Hetcha, Wakakish, Nichana. Wana washiti must pay a capicha. Nakota or gloomy and that Atena lecture my chance a capicha. Takoa washiti was like a hell, Lakota and Nicha. She had to tell must pay a capi. Nisha market capi, snap that. Sahatija, Wana bilingual himancha. The Koa and Washito. I had to tell St. Joseph's school here. Here, Naya, you walk a walking. A honey, let's chat a walk a competition. Chin Hawks, you walk a mata, what chair over there. Lakota water there. Now, I took a question to say, hey, watch up there, watch that. She had such a water up there. I want to took a question. Now, Harold and Harold, you just left it. Okay, he's a head to Owen, he's a Washington. Now, when Baba Kakiahe, it was cook bush, and when they have a cook bush, chain and net, Lakota in Mancha. Now, I had to walk with the work there. Now, I go ahead, Dakota, or must be my capture, I had to Dakota walk like that. After Dakota, walk like a church, a dead. The dead I had to tell. These are dwa legs and hit it, dwa dead. That's it, when I LD walk like a Dakota teacher much, I can't cook the head you Washington. I had a mental health field counselor in my time. It's a country could have or slow there, walk like a walking, your warrior, or walk here. In news and my reputation. The Dakota teacher need to chance or why not have teacher much on it. Dakota Wakajika was spiritual. Now, I feel to Okakabe. Tiwahe, Kihecha, Wakajini tap, Kihecha, Uspe, Cap, the Hecha. Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, Hecha, Tata, Ki, Wakajini tap, Kihecha, Uspe, Cap, the Hecha. Ote, you come on the head. To harm Ukia with that. Ukia slash, Ash, Nahaki won't spell Ukia, won't spell Chawa, Ukia be. Aha, tell the Kihetcha, Oteled Nakapi, Tako hecha most by your camp hecha. Na hecha with the grandchildren hecha. She's right about we are raising our grandchildren. 99% we are caregivers, caretakers, providers, protectors. So we're doing our best to provide for them while we're still here. Otra na kepe na si spene kapte. Nakota heche o spene kapte hecha. Hecha leche ukana jina history hecha language. What she is Dakota Etokishne. No bad Awankiglakapi. You can speak both languages. As you hear on that English, let Lakota Chandeki Warning. Lakota Nakota Waglakapi, and let you Chante Iwoglakapi. As let you Washitu Waglakapa, and let you Da is it. But let's see the true meaning. Beverly, walk with her, my child.
Hello, I can't wait to have Steve here. They're gonna be on a panel tomorrow. What panel? You know, see, Ned should tell me all about it. It's so interesting, right? Happy Halloween.
Yeah, it's all my fault. A short notice, and thank you for stepping up. Our last presenter is Cecilia, and she will touch on the topic of, anyway, she'll be up
Lakota yang kimila ikipchuna kuhamani be. Hemila ki wash ake hanga okeke. Aha ni lakota yang kimila rohanda ki duha uni. Oknela ka wakabla ki che. Nokna ta kuku waksa che. No bichasha washi tehya ni chua handa ka. Hey. The knife represents our power. How many of you women know that? It represents our identity. So today, Hokia, Unjima Kamie Wachinwe. Unjima Kawash Amaya Yeo Hey. Unjima Ka Abetukile Wash Amaya Yeo Hey. Often wonder why we're not teaching more of our women and our daughters about the teachings of the White Lakota Society. Ujimaka da to ota ahi. As we tasha ke yupa ichupi. The dokish ke chup onki wiyanki ki he naku he nakapi. Don't let it go out he. The teaching of the white buffalo calf belong to all of us. And for too long, our women have been pushed aside. I'm going to tell the truth today of what I've been watching and seeing. Wana le wiki. Wikjemna shakoni ake dopa. Makaki le akamani. Heha. Inamika eta wahinakhe. Inamika ki wa blupi wi ejapi. Na he isam inaka ki iyapi wi ejapi. Na unjiwa ichama chi ichama ke he Lily Featherman ejapi. Head wikaji ba wi ejapi. He wianki wa apia wi ahecha. Kahe impata wika kapang ashna naka hippie. Now wa oke, now apia. Shall make look to ash na pejuta upi. Chama umbika tuemika kiowich owicha yakin. My hair unjilina pejuta was still ucha hechina makapi choriaka ma unibu. You know, I think my grandmother gave us good medicine because we're still alive and we're still walking on the earth. Is that cool or what? I named my mother. I named my grandmother. I named my other grandmother, who my kaka married, and who taught me many things. TPR, total physical response, is how I learned Lakota. How about you? I saw it, I felt it, and I did it. How many know that, huh? I share that with you because we have, in this day and age, many challenges of how to teach the Lakota language. I have at home in my bookcase, Riggs, Deloria, Bupo. I have many stuff. And every night I take Ella Deloria's Dakota text to bed with me and I try to read it. Lakota speakers have a hard time reading Lakota. How many of you know that? There are too many diacritics, too many marks. Confuses the heck out of me. How about you? Huh? Yes. Me and Mashke Dama, we email each other, we talk on the internet. Awankiglakapi. We write it like we say it, and she understands me, and she responds back to me. I don't need diacritics. So one of the challenges that I see back in July when we had this gathering, one of the challenges, we still have we chota Lakota Yabokibi, Tiwahe, Tiospaye, we choti, Ash, Hana Dokiske Chukogi, Hana Dala, Ewi Chulakona, we chu you locked it. That way. Nakota, Nani Chinjaki, Lakota Yabus Bewi Chakashihan. We need to ask the first language speakers why they didn't teach their children or grandchildren. There are many reasons. In July, we talked about boarding school. I went to boarding school for 10 years at Red Cloud Indian School, and I still speak Lakota. We gotta quit making excuses on why we can't speak it. How many of you agree with me? We have volumes of reasons why we can't speak it, but we need to start creating reasons why we should speak it. We need to start looking at what happened. How many of you know you can speak it if you want to? Let me see your hands. One more time. How many of you know you can speak it if you want to? It's in your DNA, damn it. You just covered it up with excuses and blame. Huh? How many of you know that? Yashi hanta or yabihi. If you want to, you can. I'm not going to be nice today. Because I, for one, would like to have a conversation with first language speakers in my reservation, in my community. I, for one, would like to start to listen to why. Tusweca Awankiglakapi, Iyapi Gluwasakapi. Iyapi we try to imagine okay. Heck you that. Huh? Iyapi ni Iyapi we try to imagine okay. Who we are is enmeshed in our language. Our language is pretty amazing. We can't cuss in our language. How many of you know that? Somebody mentioned it this morning. Hey, you have to write 14 paragraphs to yell somebody in it. Yeah. Or even better, you go like this. Our language does not allow for negativity. How many of you know that? Our language does not allow to put anybody down. How many of you know that? Our language does not allow you to put yourself down. Because you're supposed to. You only harm yourself. Let me take you back to 75 years ago when I came into the world. I was not born, I emerged. I love that word, don't you? I emerged from my mother. I came out of my mother. After 9 months, I emerged. When you look at the creation stories for Lakota, how did we get here? Did we emerge? Did we come out of the wind cave? Yeah. Did we emerge? So that symbolically, when we come out of our mother, we emerge, yeah, into this life. I emerged at 10 o'clock at night. And we have a lot of midwives. Now we read out, she said, before you were 3 minutes old, I told you who you were. Umbilical cord, how many of you heard those stories? Huh? That's the gift of the Hoshichu. And then the best gift of all was she handed me to my dad. He held me. So when my kamini, the placenta, kamini ki hewa kam, etola soyapi. Kamini ki hewa kam. The reason the placenta is sacred is because it protected you for 9 months. 9 months, it protected you while you grew inside your mom. And if you were fortunate enough to have a Lakota speaking mother, she spoke to you, so you learned to speak it while you were still growing inside of her. How many of you know that? Huh? And they sang to you, huh? And so after my placenta came out, and how many of you had your placenta buried or tied to the top of a cottonwood tree? Let me see your hand. Huh? Thank you. Ahani had kamini waka. So as soon as that placenta came out, and my dad, he hung my sister's placentas on the cottonwood tree. Me, I was born in Nebraska, Sandhill. I got a bunch of bushes. Hey. So the next best thing was Awankiglakapi. He dug a hole in the earth. And he sang, and he gave me to Ujimaka. And so there began my journey as a woman. For she is always with me, because they gave my afterbirth to Ujimaka immediately. And today I know who who I am and learning in my strengths because Ujimaka embraced me and took me. These are the teachings that we have to bring back. Let's step back a little bit further. Today, I challenge the women out there and the men. We are at a bad place in many of our communities. How many of you know that? Statistically, we are not at a good place. Many of our children from our reservations are in foster care. How many of you know that? Is that not a good teaching? We're not supposed to give our children away or give them up. How many of you know that? Yet we have a lot of Lakota children across the whole state of South Dakota in foster care. What does that mean? It means that we're not being good parents and grandparents. We failed. 56% of the women in the state prison are Indian women from the state of South Dakota. How many of you know that? So when you take a look at the statistics, it means that we're not at a good place. It means that it's Indian men beating up Indian women. Come on, let's be honest about it. Our Indian men are hurting us physically, mentally, emotionally, and yes, spiritually. There are Indian men out there professing to practice Lakota ways to hurt women. How many of you know that? So what I want to convey to you is that our language is based on respect. So let me go back to the first teaching of Tusweca. The first teaching is when she came to us, that we were just Tusweca. She came to us to bring us the teachings. Vichasha Nakota. The Nakota, Bahawa Chata, Iyapi Gluwasakapi. Kaha Chui Nakawash, this Kacha, Nahabado, where you have any. So one of the warriors immediately saw that she was special. The other warrior saw her in a very bad way, lustful. He immediately wanted to take her and probably rape her and have sex with her. That's what it meant, being lustful. She came closer and closer, and what did she do? She turned him into a pile of bones. We need to take that story and enhance it. We need to take that story to remind our men to start teaching other men, boys and little boys, to respect women. How many of you agree with me? Come on. We need to quit being silent. These teachings are ours as women. So we need to embrace it and claim it. We need to use it in our daily lives. So one of the things I wanted to also talk about was that, I like Ellen Deloria a lot. And so as a Lakota speaker, I looked at all of these methodologies and all of these grammar books and all of these dictionaries and et cetera. And it confuses the hell out of me, to be honest with you. It confuses me. Anyway, what did she say, 5 minutes? 2 minutes. Okay, all right, let me push this fast forward here. Okay. So what I wanted to leave you with is this. Let's reach out to our families and communities of first language speakers. Let's ask those who still speak the language, what do you need to help and keep your children and grandchildren? Let's reach out to the community and bring the Lakota speakers together just to sit around and talk, to enhance their language even more. Because Velma and I, every time we see each other, it's getting harder and harder to find people to talk with because everybody's dying. True? And so we need to make a commitment. Here is my conclusion. on why. You know, it's been about 138 years since the reservation boundaries were established in Pine Ridge. In those 138 years, like 1889, Pine Ridge was established. In those 130 plus years, we had to acculturate, we had to learn how to speak English and accept Jesus Christ. And then we had to embrace a Western way of thinking. They didn't have to. How many of you know that? They didn't have to. And then we got relocated, sent to boarding schools, and et cetera. So here it is, 130-some years later, since the reservation boundaries were established. And dang it, some of us are still here talking Lakota. So that, how do we enhance that? So I can go on and on, but in conclusion, last week we had a dedication of Lady Dignity in Chamberlain. 52-foot woman. How many of you see her? First time I saw her, I cried. And this is what I said. Wanawa Awankiglakapi. Lakota women in the state of South Dakota have been relegated to the back pages of history books. Yes? We have been added to addendums. Yes? Every book in the library of all Lakota college is written by a white man or a man. Our Indian women want to be seen and heard. How about that, huh? Do it, Diki. We need to then reclaim our place in the society, that we belong in this hemisphere. We belong where we are. And I'm encouraging Indian women to really stand up and learn more. Final thing, shame. Đi đâu đi chợ tại vì chọn của người ta quê là không cho qua là cái chuyện chi là tôi nói qua đến được có thể đi xem bảo thì đó là không cho qua là cả chọn để where she got it. So we have to look at some of the emotional reasons why our people are not speaking. But here, finally, I want to say well pila to my mom and dad. Ina ate we talked to and teatro go be washito walk up she. We went on relocation in California. We lived in a Mexican neighborhood. They used to come and ask us, what are you talking? So I'm grateful to my mom and dad who continue to speak Lakota to us. One time I met my aunt asked my dad, my aunt we live in a white world and have to learn how to speak English. I think we talked to that truth and I used it. She and I Lakota when she shall be. Iyapi Gluwasakapi I said to Honda. Dog Shalina, Washitu, Awaya, Exatima Iyapi, Dog Shaheha, Washitu Wogakapten. So I'm eternally grateful to my mom and dad for continuing to speak the language. But in conclusion, I want the women to stand up and organize yourself so we can help you. Give you skills and tools to teach your children and grandchildren not just the language, but the ways, the ceremonies. And that's the theme of Lady Dignity. And we're using that event last Saturday to kick off a statewide movement to strengthen and empower our Lakota women. And so you can talk all day long about why, but as long as you have financial poverty, or the unchis and the sub-unchis don't have the resources just to feed their children and grandchildren, how the hell do you expect them to teach Lakota and Lakota ways, huh? We have so much work to do, but how many of you are ready to do it? How many of you are ready to do it? And how many of you are already doing it? And how many of you need to quit making excuses and jump on the bandwagon and help, okay? So with that, thank you. Be back down.
That concludes our presentation. I'm sorry we went over. And any questions for us, you can catch us outside. Thank you.
How can you get a recording, get a copy?